force a whole lot. I have to be very careful, Dave.
Well, you're all right, but
Roads are cool, but force hope it won't crackle too much.
we're here this afternoon with Clyde Eastern, and we're here at Anzio Veterans Reunion in Branson, Missouri, and he's been the head of that thing for several years. But Mr. Eastern, you just started out here, and you tell me, and this is for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, but you just tell me a little bit about your life and being in the military is a part of it. But where were you born, where did you go to school, and a few things like that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Clyde Easter. I was born in Cana, Virginia, rural area, Carroll County, Virginia, southern part of the state. 1925, February 25th, 25. I was the third of three boys, and born in 1925, and the first remembrance I had was probably about 4-year-old. And my dad worked in a furniture factory in a nearby town of Mount Airy, North Carolina. My mother was from High Point, North Carolina. Dad was from the area there. It was a very rural county. My great-great-granddaddy was in the Civil War. He was captured and died as a prisoner up in Maryland in the Civil War. So all my grandparents were from that area. The Easters originally came from Germany back in the 1700s, but the area I grew up in was very rural, very poor area. First memory I had was said around 4-year-old. I remember my dad, my two older brothers, and first memory I actually recall was helping my dad saw wood. We had we burned firewood to heat with and all that. My dad saw wood, so I only remember my dad about a year. Tragedy happened in our family in 1930. My dad was 31 years old, and he was murdered, was killed by another man. Some kind of a feud. I don't know exactly what took place. It was drinking or what involved. One Sunday afternoon, a man murdered him when I was 5-year-old. Mother was about 28. Two brothers from 9-year-old down to 5-year-old. And that was right when the Depression hit. And I look at the camera. Should I look at the camera?
No, look at me, never mind.
Right at the beginning of the Depression, and my dad had a couple, $250, $300 in the bank. All the banks closed up. We couldn't even get that money. So we really had a hard growing up for 10 years. Very, very hard. But we found out one thing, that if you got the will to work, God will give you the knowledge and the tools to work with. If you've got soil, you can make a living out of the soil. So we made a living off of our 38-acre farm, which we'd inherited from my granddad. We had a garden we'd out of the summertime. We canned vegetables and fruits. Basically lived on no money at all, but if we needed spending money, we'd go out into the mountain. We'd pick wild blackberries, take them to the country store, sell them 2 cents a pound, 10 cents a gallon. And we would dry apples. My granddad had set out orchards, and we would dry those apples, sell dried fruit. We managed to buy 2 pigs each year, $5 for 2 pigs, and we would get them in the spring, keep them till the fall, raise pumpkins, fatten them on the pumpkins, and we'd never eat hams and shoulders. We eat the scrap meat, the middling meat, and we sold our hams and shoulders to the country store. We had chickens, had our own eggs. If chickens didn't lay, my mother would say, "Oh lady, if you don't lay in another day or 2, you're going to be in a pot or go to the store." So that's what happened. We're pretty much self-sufficient. Winter times were hard. I was in a valley at the base, at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountain. It wasn't quite as cold as it was up on the 3,500-foot mountain that we're at the foot of. Made a fairly good living as it was, no money to spend, and we struggled very hard. My mother was very smart. She'd been growing up in North Carolina. had like a high school education, never remarried, was 28 when Daddy was killed. And my 9-year-old brother sort of took over as the leader of the family. And we raised corn. Basically our crop was corn. And most of the time we eat cornmeal even for breakfast. We'd eat cornbread for breakfast. We couldn't buy the flour. And we learned very well that you can make it on very little money. The necessities of life are very few: food, shelter, and clothing. We managed some way to have enough money from our bird picking all to buy our shoes with. One pair. Shoes usually lasted 2 years. Winter shoes did. My uncle was a cobbler. He mended the shoes and we'd wear them for 2 years. If we could put up with the tax that was in the bottom of the shoes. I attended an elementary school, Sandy Ridge Elementary School, 2-room school, heated with pot-bellied stoves, very cold. We walked to school, about 2.5 miles we walked to school. The man and his wife was a husband and wife team that taught 1st grade through the 5th, and then the big room was the 6th and 7th grade. And we had an extra room in our house. The teachers usually rented one room and stayed in our house. So I had a very good 7th grade education. We studied at arithmetic, of course the major things, reading, writing, and arithmetic. History was my favorite subject. Loved history, state history, national history, and world history. Mother so bad wanted to educate us. She wanted us to have, her parents had died when she was 12-year-old, and she was in an orphanage home up until she was married and had a high school education, but she so bad wanted us to have more than she had. So we had a high school that was about 7 or 8 miles, a country high school 7 or 8 miles from us. So I'd walked about 2.5 to 3 miles to catch what we called a school bus, but actually it was a pickup with a little camper on the back end of it that wasn't heated. Usually the girls would ride in the cab with the bus driver. There was only about 8 or 10 of us. I started the high school. This was in about 1940 would have been. And the schools and the high schools, and very many kids go through high school even. You'd have a large class the first year, and then we only went 4 years to high school, finished in the 11th grade. 7th grade was a free school, and we went to 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th to high school. But usually the classes will get less each year. I attended high school there, very good country high school, we had very good teachers. I mean, basically you went to school to learn then. You went to school to learn. If they go into the house, we had outside toilets, no running water, did have electricity, and we didn't have electricity in my home at all then. And the principal, he went out to the outside toilet and smelled cigarette smoke. He found out who it was smoking there. They got expelled. They were expelled from school immediately. Very strict then. I went to the last year of high school, and my brother next to me had decided to go into the 3 CC camps, Civilian Conservation Corps. And so I dropped out. I started the last year of the 11th grade. I dropped out and went to CC camps. And went in a nearby camp, probably about 25 miles from my home. And they were closing some of the camps out then because this was after Pearl Harbor had happened. In fact, our first radio we bought just a month or 2 before Pearl Harbor was attacked. I remember my brother hooking it up as a battery radio, and he took had to have an outside arrow or a wire of some kind outside. He took it out to the pear tree in the yard, put it in the pear tree, and we heard about World War II that way. So this was in probably 43, I guess. I dropped out of high school, went to CC camps. Stayed at CC camps about 6 months. That camp closed out. I was transferred to another one. Meantime, I had an application to get a job at a local hosiery mill. Actually, it was the only factory in our county, was a full-fashion hosiery mill. And me and my brother both came out of the CC camps, got honorable discharges, worked in the hosiery mill a few months, the early part of 1943. And I was 18 in February, the 25th of 43. So early in June of 43, I received my greetings from the government to be inducted into the Army. And just prior to that, my older brother was 4 years older than me. He had went in the Army about 6 months earlier. My brother next to me had gone in about 3 months, and then I went in later. My mother, of course, was a widow, and nothing was said to me or anything about that. I think legally one child could have stayed at home. We didn't look into it, and as we talked later about it, actually, if we'd have known it, I doubt if either one of us would have stayed at home, because since the other two went in, we felt like we had to go in. So I was inducted into the Army in June 23rd, I believe, was 1943. We got on buses in our local county seat of Hillsville. We were taking about 200 miles to Camp Lee, Virginia Induction Center. Spent about close to a week there, and then we our group I was with was sent to Camp Cross, South Carolina. That was a infantry training camp near Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I keep forgetting if it was 13 weeks, I believe it was 17 weeks basic training. I was there in June, July, and August, up to September. Very hot. In fact, we had one guy that died out on the field from a sunstroke. Very hot in the Spartanburg area. Trained about 17 weeks. From there, we were transferred to, I think I had a short furlough, a few day furlough home. Then we went to Fort Meade, Maryland, which is up close to D.C. And we knew pretty well we was headed overseas. This was right in the dead of the war. And so we went to Fort Meade, Maryland, and had planned to be there about a week before we were actually shipped out to go overseas. And I think that was early, getting close to November. And several guys came down sick, changing climate from South Carolina to Maryland there, where it was near the water, was a down temperature and all, and we were out on drills, marching and all, and I came down with a bad cold, and they warned me when I went on sick call, you better be sick. Some of the guys were gold breaking. I guess they thought we were fibbing gold breaking, you know. But I went on sick call, wound up with double pneumonia. Was in the hospital about a month, and the other group that I was with was shipped out, so I separated from my group that I'd trained with. And nearly almost died, because in the Army, when you get bad enough that they call your parents to come in, they call my mother to come, that I could win either way, about 8 or 10 days there. They couldn't get the temperature broken. I lost 3 days that I didn't even know that I was alive. But anyway, I survived the double pneumonia. They gave me a short furlough home after that. Went back to Fort Meade, and that's so hard when you've never been away from home and being that young, 18-year-old. Some of the guys I was with, I had known, not close friends, but I known them because they was from the county where I was from. And so I was with a whole new group, And a few days we were put on a train and sent down to, from Fort Meade, we were sent to Camp Patrick Henry, which is also in Virginia, and very close to Norfolk there. And we were sent to Hampton Roads to Norfolk. We boarded the ship there. I had no idea where we were going. Had no idea. There was even rumors we was going to the Pacific, but some of the guys knew better than that. If we was going to the Pacific, we'd probably been leaving California. And So no one knew where we was going. We got on a Liberty ship, one of Kaiser's Liberty ships. We were in a large, very large convoy. This would have been in December of December of 43. And I thought sure I'd get seasick. Never seen the ocean, never been on a boat. But I never did get seasick at all. Made the voyage good. We went from there, we landed in Oran, North Africa, not knowing yet where we were. And we learned we was in some part of Africa, and that actually was where my division had landed, in that area, Oran and Fidela, in November 42. So we stayed there 3 or 4 days. I can't remember for sure, but I think I think we changed ships probably. And it's still, I guess, part of the same convoy, a large convoy. After we got on the ship there, I think it's after Oran, went through the Strait of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean Sea. And at that time, the Germans, I understand later, they almost had complete control of the Mediterranean Sea at that time, even though we had already captured Sicily, and at that time was over on the mainland of Italy. They had landed at Postum or Salerno in September, I think, of 43. But we lost several ships in the Mediterranean there. Several hit mines, the Germans of the night. We were several days, and actually if you was on the ship today, it probably would be from Oran over to Naples, Italy. It's not that far. But we were about 3 days on the boat there, and lost some ships due to air raids. And I was in a group, only about 500 replacements was on the ship. The other hatches were loaded with ammunition, gasoline, supplies. They had some tanks, jeeps, and vehicles on the top deck, and we were just in one hatch. There was about 550 replacements, and the sea was very rough. The place became very messy before we got off the ship. We stood up, we had to stand up to eat, we had tables we stood up at, and if they hit rough water, swells in the water, a lot of guys would slide down. They had something on the floor like canvas. It became very slick. I guess it was maybe wet and dirty. Food would go all over the ship. And of a night, the air raids come in, and we were locked down in the hatch, and we could hear the aircraft guns going off on the deck almost every night. And understand later we did lose several ships. But finally landed at Naples. And then at Naples, I joined we were replacements. Some of the guys were sent to different divisions, 45th, 36th. We're getting ready to go into Anzio, and I was assigned to the 30th Division. They were almost through with the training at that time. This was in January. Did a little bit of training after I joined the division. Of course, in January 22nd, we didn't know anything. It was kept very secret from us what was going to happen. But we got on a ship to go to Anzio. And had a larger ship, but I'm not sure if the boats were, at this time, if they were LCIs, LSTs, some were LSTs, some were LCIs. But when we went into Anzio, actually, I was on a smaller boat. I think we transferred, if I'm not mistaken, we transferred from a larger boat to a smaller boat, and I landed on a boat that the front dropped down, that we could walk off. And we were in the water up to our knees. Some guys were up to the waist even. They didn't get in that close. And very little resistance when we landed. Of course, to me it seemed like a lot because they had some German airplanes coming in, and there was some machine gun fire. They had a few artillery guns. There was some firing going on, and the firing we were doing and all, I thought 18-year-old kid at the time. It was a very, very horrifying experience to go through that. I just couldn't believe, that I actually was there. It was going to be in the war, in combat. And we went inland the day we landed. Landed the first day, and then we were about the only ones landed the first day. It was the 3rd Division. We went inland probably 2 or 3 miles and stopped pretty much and set up a defensive front line. And General John Lucas was our 6th Corps commander. He was a very cautious guy. Actually, probably shouldn't have been in on the land at that time. I understand he had been in Africa and maybe through Sicily. And I didn't think he was old at that time. I think he was up towards 60-year-old. But was very cautious. He didn't want any more men to get killed than he had to. And John Lucas. And my division commander was Lucian Truscott. A little more of an aggressive guy than the other general was. As all the time it became quick, I seen it very quickly became a thing of survival. We're going to try to survive the war. And everything was fairly quiet. I understand the second day then we got more troops come in. The 45th Division came in, the 1st Armored Division came in later. Two regiments of the Rangers landed with us, the 504th and 509th Parachute Regiment. But we pretty much just took a position, like a permanent position, and we started digging in, foxholes or slit trenches. Mostly we used on the beachhead. Mostly we used the slit trench style more than we did the foxhole. The Germans, they was more in favor, and later we became more in favor of the foxhole too. The slit trench was easier to get in and get out of quick, and actually we thought we could get by with less digging with a slit trench. We dig a very shallow ditch to start with, and then when we started getting shot at, shells coming in, we dig a little deeper. We stayed there for 2 days. We had a pretty decent slit trench where 2 guys could lay together and be under the ground. But it was a 2-man slit trench thing. That was in early January. And we were in the low area there, low ground. I've been back over there many trips since the war. The Germans had the high ground, the mountains ahead of us. Of course, they were there. They wasn't prepared for us landing there, but it didn't take them long to get the upper hand on us. And Hitler personally ordered that beachhead annihilated. He called it an abscess on Europe. And he personally ordered the beachhead annihilated and was almost successful in doing it. And we waited about 8 or 10 days, and then General Lucas said we could attack then and go in Rome. But I understand their plans originally was to go in all the way into Rome soon, within a few days. But Lucas chose to be cautious, and I think he was wise to do it probably because I've read many books on the beachhead, and all research and all, I think it's proven to me if we had went on and tried to go into Rome, our troops, we just didn't have enough. And once we started out then, after about 8 days, they had 8 divisions. Had 8 divisions on the beachhead. Some of their best divisions, the Panzer divisions, the tanks. And when we started attacking then to break out, it was just like going against a stone wall. And we'd gone about 10 miles deep at that time, about 12, 15 miles wide. And it became a seesaw battle for 4 months then. We attacked it. They, of course, counterattacked it. We had very, very high casualties. Very, very high. About half of my division was casualties, either wounded or captured or killed. And it was more or less a seesaw type war, and most time of the day, daytime, it was a lot of rain then. That was a rainy season in southern Italy, very, very rainy then, and the soil there was very, I would call it like a bottom soil, very rich, loose soil, no rock in it. In fact, that area where we landed had been a marsh. They call it the marsh. It's a very marsh area, very swampy area in that area. And that was one of the projects that Mussolini had, really a good project. He had cleaned up that area, had it irrigated. I understand it was just a lot of bush type area, very swampy. And they went in and cleaned that out, irrigated, put a canal in, which we nicknamed the Mussolini Canal.
Yep.
Had drainage ditches from it, and that today that is a breadbasket of southern Italy. Some of the best crops grown in there of anywhere in Italy. And he also made several. He developed several towns there, Nettuno, several of those towns were developed under Mussolini's leadership, which he done some things that probably good for the country to start with. And, but the soil was very bad to be in. Most time we couldn't use our tanks. At that time there was, I don't think I ever seen I didn't cover much of the area, but I don't think I ever seen an area that had a paved road on it. It was either dirt, or mostly gravel. It had to have a gravel. And if you got off of that road, the tanks would bog up. It was just very muddy, very wet. And even the roads, once our vehicles started running over the roads, they became very muddy. That was one of the muddiest places in the world, I guess, during World War II. And if you see the movies they show today of that, you can see it's just a soupy mud. And, but we were bogged down there, and the activity we did most of the daytime, we could see the Germans a lot of times over on their side, drying out just like we was. Nobody was actually shooting at each other. And overnight when all of our activity went on was overnight patrols. And I always said, if everything's quiet, the enemy's quiet, we're quiet, why go out and stir up trouble? But that's what we did overnight. I went on 8-man patrol many a night. And actually they were trying to stir up trouble, and they were trying to get the location of the enemy, of the Germans, trying to find their location. Some of those night patrols were just a little bit suicidal operation. Because this was we landed January 22nd. So March the either 24th, 25th, I think it was 25th, I was on a night patrol. And we knew there was a machine gun nearby and been giving us trouble. And we were dug in at that time. There's several creeks on that beach here. It was sort of odd. There were several creeks, free-flowing streams that you could probably walk across, over 2 or 3 foot wide. And it had a very deep ditch where the creek was running in. Maybe it could be 12, 15 foot high. And we were on patrol. We went up that creek in that area where the banks was around us. And the machine gun we went up to knock out opened up on us. And I got hit in the right hand. There was another guy got a fresh wound in the shoulder. I got shot through the right hand, and didn't realize I was wounded to start with. I just felt a sting. And the other guy hollered for medics. Wasn't any medics around, but our platoon sergeant, I don't know his name, staff sergeant, came over and said, "There's something wrong with my hand too." And of course the blood was just flowing out. And I said, "Don't seem to be anything bad." He said, "No, it's not really." I said, "You could bleed to death from it. You got a hole through your wrist, through your hand." So he got his sulfur powder out and the bandage and put the bandage on it. And me and the other guy, he said, the rear is that way, start walking. And try to go back and find an aid station. And we walked well, it was just unbelievable. It was night, and we walked through our own lines. They took us for enemy, but we would be challenged, you know, but we got through it, got directed back to an aid station, and then had to walk, we finally walked to another aid station farther in the rear, and an ambulance was there. Our ambulance picked us up. I guess you'd call it an ambulance. It had the Red Cross on it. And when I got on that, and that guy was on the bump, in fact, some of it just crossed the fields, I think he was driving. It started bumping, and I'd lost a lot of blood, and I passed out. Just went out, and one of the medics gave me a shot, came to, and of course was on the way back to the evacuation hospital. They were back near the beach, very close to the beach, which they tried to get back far as they could. Probably 4 or 5 miles back to the evacuation hospital. So went to the evacuation hospital, and they do emergency surgery and stuff there. If you're bad enough, you're sent back to a general hospital like to Naples. So I stayed there about 2 days. They actually cut the wound up farther above. The bullet had gone through and then lodged in my hand and gone in my wrist from behind and come out. And they cleaned that out and done some surgery on that. And then about 2 or 3 days, I was carried on a stretcher down to the docks in Anzio, put on a British hospital ship. And there's a lot of other guys. When I go over there now on my trips daily now, that same dock is there. It looks the same, hasn't changed any. They have the steps walking down about 3 foot down to the docks. It looks exactly the same, no change at all. And was put on a British hospital ship and went to Naples to a general hospital. I think probably the 56th General Hospital. Up on the hill, it was a former sanatorium. It had been a sanatorium before. 4 or 5 story building, and it was overlooking the Bay of Naples. Well, they might go back just a second from the front lines to the evacuation hospital. I've seen some books that people have read, and some of the nurses know, some of the guys. I've heard some of the guys refused when they went. If they had a minor wound back at the evacuation hospital, they asked to go back to the front. I didn't ask to go back to the front at all. In fact, I thought the evacuation hospital was near heaven. But when I got back to Naples and got in the bed with the sheets on it and all, it was just like heaven to me. It was just like heaven. And as the sergeant said, you probably got a $1 million wound. That's a going home wound. And I stayed there 1 month. The bullet actually, I'm right-handed, close to my trigger finger. But it gone in through the muscles here. Of course, when they opened up a machine gun, we jumped to try to find cover. And they hit me from the back side of the hand. And it just came between my trigger finger and the thumb. And within a month, they had me like new. One of the hardest things I've ever had to face in my life was to go back in after it already been. Just actually thought there's no way I can do it, but I said, no, the other guys do it, I can do it. Had no choice really. Of course, there was some guys then, you know, you had goof-offs in the Army, and you had some who go AWOL. But after a month, I got on a ship. I think the hospital ship took us back because they were transporting wounded guys all the time. As they went back, they were taking the guys who got well. So I went back to Anzio docks, and the truck picked me up soon. Had no idea where I knew the division. I followed daily where we was fighting at, and if we broke out of the beachhead or not. Excuse me, which we hadn't broke out. Truck took me back to the 3rd Division, worked my way back more or less to the front lines, and went to the same company, Company A, 1st Battalion. And that's hard again. Knew nobody. I think the platoon sergeant, everyone was gone, had been wounded or killed. And so hard things happened to an 18-year-old kid. The sergeant once that fixed up my wound, I said something to him, thanked him for being nice and all, might have even asked his name. And he was just, oh God, it cut so hard. He said, I don't even want to know who you are. I don't even want to know your name. He said, I made a mistake when I came over here. I got to be friends with the group I came over with. I got to be friends with these people. I see them wounded, see them killed. And he said, it hurts so bad, I don't want to get any close friends. And I can understand where he's coming from. So I went back, was reissued my rifle, clean clothes. March the 24th, went back about April 24th, 25th. Same situation, patrols of a night, dry out of a day, a lot of rain. A lot of times, a piece of bread, they couldn't get our rations up to us. If they could get the rations up to us each evening, we was eating C rations like corned beef hash out of cans or K rations. But we went for days sometime. Only thing they could get up to us would be a mattress cover full of loaf bread. They would bake, the Italian bakers were baking our bread, and they made it a real heavy crust on it. It was real tough with a heavy crust on it. Didn't even wrap it or anything. They just put it in mattress cover and brought it up. And after some time, they'd give a loaf of between about 4 guys or 2 guys, and you just tear your half off, keep it in the sled trench with you. For days, that's all we had was that bread. A lot of times, all we had was muddy water or bloody water. I wasn't a coffee drinker, but if they brought us coffee then, I would drink the coffee. It was the same seesaw back and forth, but we knew they were getting ready to break out as soon as the weather broke. We couldn't get much air support due to the weather. I think our air support we were getting was coming out of Foji Air Force Base. I don't think the 8th Air Force out of England coming to that overhead area. And we just bogged down, hunkered down there for another month. And there was rumors of breaking out. And I knew we were building up. We got more supplies in, more troops in. And so about May the 22nd, actually we started the breakout. The artillery started laying a lot of shells. The Air Force, the weather broke till the planes could come in then and bomb. And on the 23rd, I guess it was the heaviest day that we laid more shells than I think record says that almost any day in the war we laid more shells than on the enemy that day. And I know the 23rd, maybe the 24th, there was more soldiers killed that day, I think, than any day in the war. But on the 25th, we were breaking out, my regiment, 7th Regiment, the company I was breaking out. We were going through the area that had been a no man's land for 4 months. Actually, we had to cut through our own barbed wire. We had our barbed wire, we had our landmines. The Germans had their landmines, the barbed wire. And we were trained in basic training to always march in a staggered formation. You didn't walk directly behind the guy in front of you. You'd walk here, you'd walk here, you didn't follow him. But we learned one thing, when we were tacking, when we go through the minefields, they would send scouts out and someone out ahead, and they would, explosion go off and holler for the medics. Send another one out, explosion go off, who's stepping on landmines, holler for the medics. So finally, the whole group of us went together. And what we did, we stepped in the steps of the guy ahead of us. If he was still living and hadn't stepped on a man, we stepped as much as we could in his step. So we got through, and after we advanced, we had been facing the city of Cisterna, which was about 6 or 8 miles away. But we headed into Cisterna, that's when I got my second wound. And you know the tragedy that the Rangers had there. They tried to take Cisterna early on in the first couple of weeks, Colonel Darby's Rangers. And I think they lost about 1,800 men. Well, one guy here was in there. And it was so heavy fire that day. I mean, the Germans were laying every machine gun, rifle, and particularly they was laying in 88 soldiers, 88 mortar shell, which is the most feared gun. To me, it's the most feared gun they had, the 88. And one hit near me, I was knocked up in the air, the concussion of it, and came down. I felt like my back was broke, felt like it was broken up all over. But I wound up with one little piece of shrapnel in my right cheek. I just felt the sting of that, but I was really bleeding from that. It penetrated, went through the bone, was back near my eardrum. And again, medics we hollered for the medics. They were killed or busy. I think we took some of the platoon sergeant to put the bandage, put some sulfur powder on the bandage. There's a couple of us went back together. We walked back, and again, I passed out later, I guess from the loss of blood from that. We went through the same process we did the first time. We went to the aid station, got on an ambulance, went back to the back hospital for a couple of days, transported back to Naples, to the hospital, on a hospital ship. And they did a great job on that. They took the shrapnel out, and I still have a piece of shrapnel that came out of that. It's about like a 30 caliber bullet. It went through the cheekbone and lodged back near my eardrum, and so they actually took it out through my mouth, went up between my gums and my jaw. And I knew after I was in the hospital for a good while, I didn't have any feeling in my cheek. The doctor informed me, said it did a lot of nerve damage, and I think today maybe they can repair that, but then they couldn't repair it. I don't have a feeling the right side of my face, most of it from that. And they didn't clean it out good. The way they took it out, I got infection, had to take a lot of penicillin shots. So I was in the hospital from May the 25th, time I got back to Naples, was towards the end of May, and I stayed in June, July, and August, up to September in the hospital there. And by that time, my division had landed in southern Italy, 15th of August. And I've always thought, I know those guys had feelings, and they probably were taught not to, but the doctors, I think they were human enough, they had some feelings for the guy, and I've always thought that guy, because I could have went back in combat. I got well from it, and but it was a handicap to me. My jaw was numb, but that was about all. And the doctor suggested or recommended that I be reclassified and not go back with my outfit into combat. So I again was sent out to Naples, we call it replacement depot, racetrack. Worked there for probably a month, and issuing clothes to guys who've been wanting to come back through, getting new sets of clothing and all to go back to the front. So I worked there about a month, and then they assigned me and some other guys. They were going to different places. There was a little supply depot there, and it was at a railroad head just out of Naples, at a Branson. It was a railroad head that the Americans had, was using for a supply depot. So I went back to 181st Quartermaster Supply Depot, and I was there until December 45 for the war ended. I was there like 15 months. And again, I thought I had died and gone to heaven. We had tents. We had 8-man criminal tents, wooden floors, a little pot belly, oil stoves, mess hall. Everything was tense. Everything was tense. But my God, how great hot food. German prisoners were fixing our food. And I had it like a daily job, 8-hour day in a supply depot. I worked in an open storage company. They had everything there from, I think it was an Italian, actually an Italian railroad heading there. It was an Italian supply place. I don't know if the Italians had it, the Germans used it too. Probably had about 10 or 12 big warehouses, about 100 foot long, 50 foot wide. Had the docks right up to the railroad tracks. And I worked as a guard some. It was fenced off, and I worked as a guard on one of the posts where the train come in and out. We'd open the gate and all. We had like 8-hour duty. And by that time, by that time, we was felt very safe. I had a few hour raids back in Naples, but the front then was way up north of Rome, and so everything was safe, secure there. And then finally I was put on a job working open storage 3, which handled tents. I never knew there was that many kind of tents and rope in my life. I just had no idea, you know. We had every kind of tent, from a pup tent to huge circus tents like. And I was working under Sergeant Prusaw, and I'm not biased as I told him, but this whole quartermaster outfit was operated by Jewish personnel. And there was a joke going around, I might not already even say this.
Yeah.
There was a joke going around that the quartermaster was a Jewish infantry. Major Landor was over it. It was Spiegel, Steinberg, all Jewish guys. And this guy, Prusak, Sergeant Prusak, Staff Sergeant. I mean, and they hadn't seen combat. They was living in luxury. Had his own private barber, would come in the morning, give him facials and cut his hair and all. A Italian guy. I worked under him. He had enough points to go home. And so I was there 15 months, about 7 or 8 months of that after he left, I took over the open storage. Had a little record file, a little desk and all, and there was about 3 of us Americans worked, the rest of them were Italian civilians. But I worked in those tents, and we would, trucks, we got that in by rail, trains would bring it in, and then the trucks would come in and haul it out. And most of them, I guess all that was going to the Italian front probably. Because over in Europe, they had their own base over there. So going like the 34th Division, those guys up in northern Italy. But it was a great job. I worked in that and finally had enough points to go home. A lot of times I wish I'd have stayed because I was, I think in combat, I was just a buck private. I went back there, was there a few months. I went to PFC because you don't get those T5s and T4s in infantry much. That's in a supply type thing. So I went to T5, that's T Corporal. And then by that time, things were winding down, people start going home, and the Major Landor and then the Captain Spiegel, I believe it was, said if I'd sign up for another year, I would get Prusak's rated as a staff sergeant, and then you could have really went up fast. I always thought if I'd have stayed, those guys were leaving, and boy, you could have got promoted real quick. But I was so anxious. And I thought later, my mother was the only thing, you know, I was in a rural area, nothing much to go back home except for my mother, my widowed mother. I was determined to make it back home to her. And so I turned all the offers down to stay, had enough points that I left out early December, went down to the naval docks, and I'd been there close to 2 years then, but I'd gone over January, so it was just a little short of 2 years. And so I really got on a luxury ship coming back, the USS Wasp, that had fought in the Pacific, and I think it was the second one maybe. I think they had one before that. This had a very big record, very, you know, all the record was on their ship there. I think it was about 5,000 or 6,000. It converted all the hangar decks down below into sleeping areas. We had like hammocks hanging on chains about 4 high. If I'm not mistaken, it's 5,000 or 6,000 of us, plus the crew on the ship. And the flight deck, I know they had a cable around that. They had like metal posts with cables around it. We played football over it. The Army guys were playing the Navy guys. Either that or was down in the hole playing poker. And I was only 4.5 or 5 days on that ship going back. One of the things that I always thought shouldn't have happened, not just because it was me, but they have to put up a list on a board that us Army guys were serving we had to work KP on that ship. My name being east of the E was on it 4 days, and that's the last day was on that ship. And we looked at that, we were still under charge of officers and all, we're still in the military. I looked at that board and my name was on that list to work KP, the last day was on the ship. And since then, as I get older, I think, what a shame. What a shame for the guys that been over there in combat, wounded and all, had to work KP on that ship coming back. Surely the Lord, they had enough of the Navy guys, the peoples on the ship to have done it. But, we had a lot of complaining about it, but our officers were still in control of us. And I went in there early that morning, worked KP, and that evening being the last day, we had to scrub the floors, the walls, every pot and pan. And the ship had docked at Norfolk at Hampton Roads. And we got to use the guys were unloading. And we stayed on that ship till it was dark, after dark. And when we got up to go to our bunks to get our duffel bag, we had to pack it and all. The other guys was already out. I can't remember if it's trains or trucks took us out to Fort Meade, Maryland. But to talk about the welcome home deal, I'd worked KP that day, scuffled around to get my duffel bag. And another thing I'll back up on that was really hurting, when we went over there, we took duffel bags with us. And we took a lot of personal stuff for basic training, like our dress shoes, our garrison cap, dress uniform, cameras and stuff was in our duffel bag. I don't know why they let us do that. We took it overseas, and when they got to Naples, they took those bags. They said, now you will get these bags back. Of course, we'll never seen them again. I understand that they were used, a lot of the stuff went on the black market. I found out later. And, but we did have a duffel bag made up then with a few things in it that we brought from Italy with us. And poker playing going on all the ships. The last day anyway was on KP. We shuffled off, us guys working in KP that day, got on, I still can't recall, I think it was trains we got on. And went to Fort Meade, Maryland, and stayed there a couple of days. Got my mustering out pay, $35. They call it mustering out pay, $35. And had to get my own way home. Went out and got on a Greyhound bus at Laurel, Maryland there, and went back to my home in Cana, Virginia. Mother was there to greet me. My other two brothers had got back home just about the same length of time before, like we had left a couple months before. Got back home, 21-year-old, almost 21, I'd been 21 in February. Had no idea what I was going to do with my life, hadn't made much plans or anything. And my older brother next to me, the oldest brother bought some land. His wife had bought some land when he was gone. He always wanted an orchard, so he went to the orchard business and was an apple grower for 50 years. The other brother went back to his hosing mill job. They were taking us back there if we would come back. So I went back to that job within a couple of weeks. replace us when we left, but it was in the agreement when we came back, they was to give their job up to the men. So I dated a lady one time before I had left. I think I was connected with the job in the hosiery mill. We dated once and came back and met the same girl. She was there in the mill. I was almost 21. She was about 18 at the time, and we started dating. I sent my mother my money home, about all that I had, which was just a few $100s. We were making $60 a month, comeback pay, and had nowhere to spend it, so it was all being sent home to her. I think in the 2 years, I sent her about $1,200 in the 2 years I was over there. And so the first thing, I wanted a car, went out and very lucky running this man in Manor, North Carolina there that had, I understand they had to put their name in, put an order in, then he was able to get like a new Chevrolet, and he had a 40 model Pontiac that one of the last models they built just before they quit making them during the war. And someone told me, and I went and bought that car, $1,000, a maroon 4-door Pontiac. And started dating the girl, started dating Ethel. And we dated from about January, February, March, April. And we were engaged for about a month. We got married 11th of May, 1946. I stayed in the hosiery mill for several months, but I had the yearning. Didn't like inside work, just didn't like inside work. Traded the car and bought me a truck. I wouldn't get in the produce business. 1.5 ton Dodge truck. Started getting in the produce business, hauling fruit, apples from Virginia to North Carolina, South Carolina, then hauling vegetables, melons and stuff like that back from South Carolina to Virginia. Working on the market, Winston-Salem, Columbia, South Carolina. Away from home a lot. I didn't like that. Away from home, and I knew it wasn't long. My wife was pregnant, and 47, about 11, 12 months after we were married, the first child came along. 47. I didn't like the produce hauling. I actually sold my truck. Bought a car, went back into the hosiery mill for about a year. Actually trying to put the war behind me, but it was on my mind, bothered me more than I thought. Very, just very unsettled as to what I was going to do, you know. And didn't have a lot of education, a little short of high school. Didn't plan life out, it just sort of come what may, you know. It's just strange that we didn't plan that out better. Like kids do today, my children and grandchildren got more education. It seemed like they plan it out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I still question myself today. I ask them, which is the best? I'd like to have more education, but sometimes disappointments to them today wasn't disappointments to me, because I didn't expect as much. I didn't expect much. And so the low valleys of life to me wasn't near as bad as it is to them. But I just thought about that job in the hosiery mill didn't suit me again. I went back in. And we had an apartment there in a little county seat town of Hill. We had a little apartment. Had electricity, but we had a wood stove. And right in town, I look at it damn amazing. Next to the one stoplight, had 2 pigs down behind the house. People had lived there in this big, very old home, about 100-year-old, that made it into 4 apartments. Went down back and found a outbuilding, found a meat house where people killed hogs, even had the meat box there with salt still in it, so I had my 2 pigs down there for a couple of years. Had our own meat, had my wood pile outside, turned the wood into the cook stove. We did have, my first experience with electricity was when I went in the Army. And where my mother lived, when I came back in 45, my mother, and it was on the main highway, major north-south highway, Highway 52. But it was in between the two states. She was in Virginia, close to North Carolina line, and Duke Power Company in North Carolina wouldn't come up in that area, wasn't enough customers. And Appalachian Power on the other side of the mountain wouldn't come down, so she was in that little zone, didn't get electricity in 1955. And so when I married, my wife had an apartment. She was from the country, had an apartment in town. Her mother had lived with her one time. She was working in the hosiery mill there. So I really was uptown when I married. We had a bathtub out in the hallway. A bathroom was shared with two apartments. The old big tub, and we had our own heat, wood stove. Did have electricity with the pull strings of the light bulbs. But that was okay with me. I was uptown, but I was very dissatisfied with the job in the mill. And I think at that time somebody had a little dairy bar there in town. A little vacant lot was a little dairy bar, about a 12 by 12, sitting on a lot. And he was selling ice cream out of the window. Interesting. That might be something for me to look into. And the guy was wanting to sell it out of something, and somehow I bought the little dairy bar for probably $700, $800. He was getting his ice cream out of a family-owned company out of Winston-Salem, was dipping ice cream out, making milkshakes, sundaes, and all. So I operated that one summer. Town wasn't big enough, so about 40 miles away, Radford, Virginia was a larger town. Well, there was a state teachers college that was near Blacksburg, Virginia, which is BPI, and we moved. First I went down and rented a lot on a very busy national highway, US 11, Lee Highway in Radford. Between Radford and Christiansburg, I rented a lot and moved that little dairy bar there. In the meantime, I went to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where they had made that little dairy bar. And I had them to make me one about 3 times that size, more or less like a streetcar diner type. About 12 foot wide and about 24 foot long, I guess. Took it to Radford, attached that oven onto it. And I became the first drive-in restaurant in Southwest Virginia. Easter's Dairy Bar and Drive-In. 1949. Venice, just boom, big huge sign, neon sign on top of the sign, extra thick milkshakes. So very anxious for Venice and to satisfy my customer. I found a few years later I was exchanging more money than I was making money. But I was making a living. And I was there one summer before my wife moved down, rented a little house, and my wife and 2 boys moved down. Rented a little house near the state teachers college there. On busy highway US 11, got all kind of tourist traffic. College people got to coming down, and actually was one of the most popular places in the city of Radford for years. I had a tremendous business back in those days. Of course, then I was serving pop. I served it in a bottle. You know, we opened the bottles, put on the tray. Hamburgers 30 cents, fries a quarter, milkshakes a quarter, sundaes 30 cents. I could have made, if I had no overhead, if I was making everything I was selling, I would have really been making a killing, probably about 10% then. $150, $200 a day was a big day in Venezuela. I think McDonald's or something probably sell that much less than an hour now.
Oh, yeah.
But I had all boy car hops, 16, 17-year-old kids. Everybody had to wear a white coat, a white cap. I wore a white shirt, white stiff coat, long sleeves, summertime and all. Boys wore shirts. We were inspected very close with the health department. Operated that about 10 years there. I was renting the lot, couldn't make a deal to buy the lot. I developed the lot where the guy went up on the price. And but then it was about, in 1957, I had a little setback. I had a skin cancer I decided to get out of that. I purchased a piece of property next door. It was a pure oil station next door with a truck stop. Kind of outdated building, about a 200-foot lot. By the way, the guy that wanted to sell me the lot, it was like a 200-foot front, 200-foot deep on a major highway. And, it's 57, no, 49. So along about 55, he would sell it to me, but he wanted $10,000 for the lot. For today, that lot, I'm sure after that, today it would sell probably $500,000, $1 million. Yeah, but 10,000 was too high. So, I went out of town 7 or 8 miles, and there was a guy going out of business, had a nightclub, a restaurant, a home, and a greenhouse. I went out and bought 16 acres of land at auction sale, and the business was only $16,000. I bought that at auction sale. And all the time, I was getting interested in real estate. Real estate had really attracted me. I got seeing that's, if you're really smart and know what you're doing, you don't, actually, maybe you don't have to work and put on those sweaty 12 hours a day to make maybe more money in it than I could be doing what I was doing. I was always looking and watching for something better. And of course, starting out in life, as I told someone many times, there was only one way to go. Financially, was up. I mean, you start at the bottom. And when I purchased the property next door, decided to go into the service station, rented my drive-in out to a guy. For about a year and a half, I bought the property, remodeled it, had a truck stop in it, changed from pure oil to Phillips 66, which I had to educate the people what Phillips 66 was. That was out west, pretty popular at the time, but a dealer was in a nearby town. People didn't know what Phillips 66 was. They was used to the SO and stuff like that. I put Phillips in, had a real nice station. And a restaurant next door, I remodeled, equipped it, rented out to a guy. But the service station didn't go too good. I really didn't have enough room for a parking for a large truck stop. Gas was 29, this was in the middle 50s. Selling gas 29, 19 cents a gallon. I was making, I think, 3 cents on the gallon. And that was when people would come up and say, $2 worth of gas, $3 worth of gas, clean the windshield, check an oil, check the tires so fast, spinning my wheels a lot. And it started getting a little bit lean, and I said, hey, at least in the food business, I can eat my mistakes. I've got something to eat. I can't drink the oil, so I started trying to get out of that business again. In the meantime, I bought a lot next door. I had about 600-700 foot on the major highway there as you went out of Radford, Virginia. And also in the meantime, there was a new interstate coming through going to bypass me. Interstate 81 was missed in the town about 3 miles. And I knew that would hurt business some. I stayed in the station about a year and a half. So I tried to sell the business at an auction sale. Recovered my money kind of at the time. I want to get back in the restaurant. I had my restaurant tied up. Guy rented for about $200 a month. So I went over to the next nearby town, Christiansburg, Virginia. There was a dead building sitting there that the guy had opened up, closed somewhere, and I rented it and opened it up as a drive-in restaurant. And a very successful business for about a year or so. So when mine came back available, I sold my stock and all out of that, let someone else have it, went back to my drive-in. And I bought this property out of town, so I moved the drive-in off. I picked it up and moved it on my own property then. And I've been in and out of the business about 15 years. And so I had my home. Actually, it was a restaurant building I bought. They had a restaurant downstairs, living quarters upstairs, and I remodeled the whole building, made the house just into living quarters. And 9 years at that time, we decided we had 2 more kids. The other 2 was like 9 and 11, and so we had 2 more kids 2 years apart then, 1960 and 1960. 10 was 60, one of them like 58, one was 60. Had to drive in next to my house, and I was getting burnt out. I was actually getting burnt out. About 12 really 7 days a week. You're working 80 to 90 hours a week. And I was getting up towards 40-year-old then, 35 to 40, was almost burnt out. And I rented the restaurant out for a while, and the company I had bought supplies from, Fridge and Freeze, frozen foods, they had an opening, so I went to them, and I got a job with them on the road, salesman, institutional food, rented the restaurant out for about, actually I worked for them probably 6, 7 years. I was on the road as institutional food salesman, and that was like, it was almost like a vacation to me, even though I got up early in the morning. It was a 5-day-a-week job, sometime a little on Saturday. Calling on accounts, schools and restaurants and all. A commission wasn't, I was making a living at it, and felt a lot better than I did in the drive-in. It said it just sort of got burnt out in the drive-in. And I stayed on that 7 or 8 years. And our oldest son then was, had finished high school, and he was a good artist. He wanted to go to an art school, art college, and I wanted to send the boys to college if we could. And Arthur was graduated from high school, and his desire was to go to a college in Richmond, Virginia, which was 250 miles away. RPI, Richmond Professional Institute. Today is part of the University of Virginia, I think. But we attended church. We tried to live a Christian life. Wife self did, trying to raise the boys up like that. We attended church. Arthur was actually a member, been baptized, and a good boy. Went away to college, and I forget whether someone called me. I think the dean actually the college called me after he'd been there about a couple of months and said, I need to come down. And all said, he was kind of running with, kind of got with the wrong group. And so I went down to Richmond to check it out. And the situation was they were so crowded they couldn't live in a dorm. They had to go off campus, get their own apartment. And he got his apartment with 4 or 5 other guys. And these boys were out of well-to-do families. That could have been a little of the problem. One boy's daddy was very wealthy, owned a shopping center, was a doctor in Roanoke. But he gave him a credit card and a new car and said, kind of get out of my hair, I guess. And so the dean called, very concerned, said that boy's already been taken out of college, already been dispelled. And if he stays with him, he probably will be too. So I went down and helped him arrange the apartment. So I go to their apartment about 11 o'clock, you knock on the door. 11 o'clock in the day, about 4 or 5 guys come to the door, still sleeping. And I think I paid the rent on it actually. So Arthur wasn't, I go and tell the guys, and they said, 5 or 6 of them, this was in the early 60s, I guess, when the hippie movement started. They ordered me to get out of here, we're trying to sleep, and I told them who I was. I said, I'm renting this apartment with my son. They got real arrogant with me, and finally I said, you be out of this apartment 6 o'clock this evening, or I'll have a place in here to take you out. They got out in a hurry. Clothes piled in the corner. These boys are so wealthy, their clothes will get dirty, they pile them in the corner, go out and buy new ones. Arthur got right into the thing, drinking, alcohol, drugs, teachers, main teacher, atheist, social drinking's all right, no God stuff. He had completely, in a couple of months, had completely left the life that we had trained him to. It was rough several years there with him. He dropped out, came back, wanted to go to BPI, which was closer to us, just 8 or 10 miles over Blacksburg. got an apartment, it was in and out there for a year or two. Send me the keys back, come get the stuff if you want. I was getting trailers in and out of the apartment. Went to New York. I made several mission trips to New York, Lower Manhattan, Greenwich Village. Go down streets to places where he lived. He actually told me never wear a necktie or white shirt, because those guys would just wait before he back in the alley. Very rough, that was very hard on us. That's part of our life, you know. And finally I almost lost contact with him. Never thought he'd live to make it grown. He's 64 today. Came back sort of on his own, changed his lifestyle, never been the same. So that made a move for us. I've always said, anything bad, it seems like in my experience of life, anything bad, there's something good will come out of it. I had a good job, I had a drive-in restaurant, I was renting a nice home there. And I said, we're gonna make a change. These boys in high school here in Christiansburg gonna go to college. I started seeing that our public schools were getting bad then, the situation. So we were Church of Christ people, and I found out about the colleges in Nashville, Tennessee. They had a David Lewis College there, Church of Christ College. And I quit my job. I guess that was about 1970. I was born in 25. About 45 years old. And sold everything out. We moved in a 10x10 U-Haul truck, Nashville, Tennessee, 400 miles away. Because I had three precious sons then. One of them was in college already in Tennessee, Henderson, Tennessee, so we moved there and put the kids in the Christian school. And all three of those kids today are good Christian kids. Preach, a couple of them preach, teachers. Youngest son, I don't envy his job, he's a good Christian kid. Actually put him through 4-year college. David was here with me 4 years. He got his master's degree, he taught. Timmy went to law school, he's a judge now. He's a circuit court judge. All three church going kids, good kids. So we moved to Nashville, stayed there 20 years. And we kind of had a desire to move back to Virginia. And I went back looking in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a beautiful place on the Bridge Parkway. Found some land there that had the most beautiful view, I think, of anywhere in the world. My wife herself had been to Israel, we'd been to Europe. And this mountain seemed to be just right. Had a view of 50 miles away and all. And I got interested in it, bought a house there. And me and my wife moved back there. Of course, the 3 kids in Tennessee had married girls. 2 from Alabama, and one of them was in college there, actually in Texas. So they married and settled in Nashville. So, in 87, I guess the year my mother died, we moved back to Virginia.
How long did you live in Nashville, Tennessee? What'd you do?
20 years.
What'd you do there?
Oh, in Nashville? Oh, without a job, yeah, I went there, and I got a job with a small family-owned company, institutional food company. Family-owned, and worked as a salesman for, oh yeah, I left that, some of the very important part out there. I worked there about a year on the road as a salesman, and I would work up new accounts, but they sort of changed them to a house account then. Sort of fighting me just a little bit, and I couldn't get any higher. It was $90, $100 a week. Had 3 kids in school, 2 in college, and 1 in high school at that time. So all the time I've been very interested in real estate over the years. I don't think I had even dabbled any in it at that time. But I decided to I really quit the job. I worked 5 days, 6 days a week, didn't have time to look for another job. So I just quit the job one day and went out, I took my test, got my real estate license, went with a company, and that was in the early 70s, I guess. That back when real estate was much cheaper. I sold a house or two then. Houses were selling for $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. split the commission with boss, about 3% commission. But that was just my niche, that real estate was it. That's what I wish I'd got in earlier. And, I was with that company, with the Cobham company there for about a year or so. And then I started seeing the opportunity. That commission, it was so competitive, very, very competitive at that time. A lot of part-time people in it that actually wasn't making their living from it. Maybe their husband was a doctor or something, and they were just working part-time. Of course, the women started getting into it a lot then. The women had advantage over us men in selling real estate. One lady, well, she had this in and out. She said she knew how to, said any man could fly into town to buy a house, and she could have him signing anything, take him to a bar and get a drink or two, and she had a certain type of skirt she wore too, she said. Wore her certain skirt. I said, no wonder I'm not selling in real estate. You sell it all. And, but anyway, I struggled real estate, listing and selling. And where I lived near David Livingston College was an old part of Nashville. Those houses were built early 30s through the 30s up to 1940. Beautiful homes, nice Cape Cod type homes. I bought a home when I first moved there. I'd actually had an office sale back home when I left home, Virginia there in 1970. I guess that was worth about $35,000. I bought a house in Nashville on a VA loan. Didn't have to invest, but because I had to have that money to keep the kids in school. I had to have that to keep the boys in school. This was a private college, but it was cheaper than your other big colleges was, you know, your Ivy League colleges. But they taught the Bible, and it was a good place for the kids to get education. But I said, I seen these houses going to market for sale. And I said, there's some way, if I could buy that house. In most cases, it was an older couple. I know today why they done it, but you go in, they look like pulling the blinds about 20 years ago, and hadn't done anything to it, and actually they got old and didn't feel like doing anything to it. So, sometime it'd be a private sale, they'd have a side of the yard, or real estate people have to sell. These were homes with just a basic yard, 50, 75, 100-foot yard, next to the college there. And I picked one up, bought one for about $17,000. Went in and cleaned it out, and found out them houses were built back in the 40s. Somewhere along in the 50s, after World War II, carpet became very popular. And I'd go in, the carpet was worn out. I said, well, I'm gonna clean it, I'm gonna tear it out, put in new carpet. When I tore that carpet up, it was beautiful hardwood floors. So I tore that carpet out, and the hardwood floors were coming back pretty popular again then. And I would do a lot of work myself, minor stuff. I could put on light switches and all, and clean up. Could do patching, even do paintings. But I had a guy come in and sand the floors, any major electric work do, put a new roof on, just manicure the house up, put it back on the market, about a 5 to 10% commission, pretty quick turnover. I went to the banker there, at the bank, the master banker, what it was, and I said, John, if you would work with me, and this is when real estate had started going up in the early 60s, interest rate, my God, if I'd had money then, you could make a fortune on your money. If you had money, it was 10, 14% interest it was paying. Going on my knees and begging for a loan, very hard to get a $5,000, $10,000 loan. I didn't have much left at that time. I had a little bit of capital left. My house, I think I still had on the VA loan. And I told the guy, I said, if you would give me money flow here of a couple hundred, $100,000, or even $100,000, I can make your bank some good money. Because these are gonna be short-time loans. You charge me 14%, okay, these are like 60-day loans, 90-day loans. Because I see the market, I've learned it, it's changing fast. In fact, I bought a house or two that people come to me, I sold one or two that I didn't even touch with a markup on it. That was when these houses were selling for 17 to 25,000. Well, he wasn't giving me the money I needed, but I would occasionally find one. Very hard to find an older house with an old couple that had an existing loan on it. I was able to get one or two that had a loan on it. If I could, I'd pick that loan. That saved me from my initial investment, you see. I got to working with that, and all I had to do was take the national banner, put a little one-liner, two-liner ad in there, walk to Lipscomb. That was a college. Walk to Lipscomb. These people coming in town bringing new kids all the time and wanting to move near the college. Man, it was a trend moving there. And I've always been I guess I've had 3 houses maybe most of the time, but in that Lipscomb area there, that old neighborhood, I go back through there now, not a lot, probably around 20 houses, 20, 23, 4 houses I bought in that area and resold. That's what kept the wolf away from the door and a little extra money besides. Those houses went up, the last ones I bought, you know, was running 30,000, where I could make a bigger profit. And those houses today are selling for $250,000. Yeah, and you know, I could have been a multimillionaire if I'd used my head a little better. I had 10 of those houses, said I'm gonna rent these out, let them pay for the sale. Today they're worth $250,000 apiece. But I had to have that fast turnover. Meantime, the boys were getting grown, getting out of school. Wife had a job, managed the cafeteria, which wasn't big money. But she could walk, I bought my house a block away from the college. Kids stayed at home, saved a lot by not having to live on campus. In fact, in order to get the capital ahead, I sold our own home. We lived in about 7 years. Bought another home. That was one thing I did. If I could buy my home, turn a profit on that. So I was doing a little better. In fact, and I'm not bragging, I've been blessed so many ways, but I actually got ahead more financially after I was 55-year-old. Because at 55-year-old, the youngest boys graduated from college. And the wife was working, we were self-supporting, so what I made then was a little more in the bank than it did when the kids were in college. But I love the real estate. We actually moved out of our home and moved in it was a nice apartment across from the college there. And I said, I'm out of it, I'm gonna buy any more, but a couple, 3 houses went for sale, and I just couldn't resist it. I bought 2 or 3 more there and remodeled them. And I just finally got my real estate license, hung them up, put them on retirement, and just bought as a private person and sold, because when you're in the real estate, the National Board of Realtors, the Tennessee, and your local Board of Realtors, they make all these rules and laws. It's a little complicated if you're in real estate and you buy and sell. I almost got in trouble once. You know, I was selling my own house and was working for a real estate company. You might know what I'm saying. And the broker says you can sell your own private property, but yet when I did, it made a conflict. God, I don't even need my license. And a lot of times too, they make rules that you follow and they don't follow, or they'll break or bend, you know. And so I was just on my own as an individual, but we decided that we both kind of wanted to move back to Virginia about 1990. Her mother, my wife's mother, and I both in bad health. We were back to about 89 or 90, and her mother died soon. In fact, my mother's a nursing home. She died around 1990. And run across that property on the mountain, Chalet, a little bit called Chalet High. It's about 150 homes in it now. All of our neighbors from North Carolina, they come up there because it's cooler in the summertime. They pretty much go back to North Carolina in winter, and we live there the year round. About 12 families live there year round now. But when I came back, went into development, I went to the county courthouse and bought my property. I used to do my own title searches. I got to work doing title searches. You know, you go to the courthouse, you go to the records, the deeds and all. And that development started out in about 73, but in 1990, it was dead, it was dormant, it just stopped. And some of the most beautiful view lots there anywhere I'd ever seen. So I got names of people that own that property, started calling people in North Carolina. Within a year, I'd bought 15 lots in there. The house that I owned, and remodeled it. It needed remodeling. I bought the lots and started selling some of the lots. I still own 7 lots there. And when I started buying the lots, after I bought about 15, everybody became excited. Oh, what's going on? Going to be some industry moving in here we don't know about or something. But anyway, I not developed it. I've sold a lot of those. I've got 7 lots. Prices have gone up. Still got the real estate in my blood. And I even bought some interstate location or 2 there off Interstate 77. Went back there. It was dead also. Why don't these corners develop here? It's next to a couple old towns on Interstate 77. 3 exits through the county. Not a business on either exit. 3 exits in the county there. Of course, the whole county, 30,000 population. When I was in real estate, I was seeing that. Again, I didn't use my head. That same property I could have bought then for $5,000, $10,000, $10,000, $15,000 an acre right down the state. I've seen these people pay $1 million an acre for it. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't think I'd do anything wrong. If I could person that sell it, the person was happy that bought it, I wasn't cheating anybody. They knew the record on the property. But I bought, I just didn't buy in it then, and about the time I started getting interested in buying it in, these farms sold there that own land near the real estate in the state. These oil companies come in and start paying $1 million an acre for it. A couple little purchases I made was less than $25,000, $30,000 stuff. We have one intersection there, and I've learned through life. You can take advice from people, financial advice, any kind of advice, but you gotta always consider who it's coming from. You need to know his qualifications. A real estate agent, a very seasoned real estate agent, stood there. I was in an auction sale. Could have bought property at that interstate location. Tracts of 15 or 20 acres, $25,000, $30,000. And I said to this real estate guy, I can invest some of that because this is going to be a good location for a chain restaurant. No chain restaurant will ever locate there. No McDonald's, not because the towns are not big enough here. They have to have so much local draw, and they'll never be there. So today there is Shawnee's, McDonald's, Wendy's, Dairy Queen, but I've dabbled in that real estate thing. I've learned through life that you learn things. You have just things that people tell you, advice, business-wise, whatever. It goes into the hopper. What's not good goes out. You absorb and keep what's good. Use your God-given brain, your knowledge that God gives you. Use it to the best of your ability. And everything will work out all right. I've been blessed with good health. I had a little faint spell last week. I was sick one night, all night long, up chucking. My son took me to the VA hospital the next day. I went through a whole complete physical examination, brain scan, the whole deal. The first thing was young doctors saying how much medication you're on. Not on a thing. Don't take any medication. They're amazed at that. 86-year-old could drop dead today. I don't know, but when I know I'm good health. My wife's been very blessed. We have been blessed beyond any imagination you could have with 4 sons and the life we've had at 86-year-old now. I would change some things if I went back. Don't regret a lot of my life. A lot been better today. I've been involved in reunions and all now. I got interested in 1985, started attending reunions.
Now tell us about how you started this Anzio reunion and how it is. That's where we are today. Anzio, tell us about that. We got about 20 minutes. Tell us about that next 20 minutes.
Okay. Oh, actually, I put the war behind me pretty much in 1985. My wife and myself went on a tour of Europe with a guided tour deal for about 30 days, about 9 countries in Europe after the kids were grown in 1985. And my desire was to go back to Anzio then, so after the tour was over, we cut out, rented a car in France, drove through the Alp Mountains, through Switzerland, down in Italy. Got to Anzio, met some people there, Mayor of Anzio, Nettuno, became friends with Antonio Torelli, Silvana Caselli. He wanted me to look up some friends he knew during the war. Tony served, actually was a kind of a mascot with a 504 parachute regiment. And he just broke down. He wanted me to look up a couple of guys back in the States for him. I started researching, just had their names only. I went through Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I think it was headquarters of the 82nd Airborne then. Was able to locate one of the guys, Lieutenant Novice, who lost his arm on the beachhead. As soon as I located him, he was a Virginia Bird professional guy, successful. He got on a plane, flew over, met with Tony, and brought him back. He's been here on several reunions back at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. But I forget how I stumbled across the reunions. Oh, I had a friend in Nashville, Tennessee, Dick Gardner, retired colonel, that had a bookstore. He published some books, reprinted a lot of old history books, World War II books, at Battery Press. And that was really my first involvement. I went out and met Dick Gardner, Battery Press, and there he was. He had a book on Anzio Beachhead, 3rd Division history book. And that was in, I guess about 1985. We were in Nashville then. He said, you know, there's a reunion. You ever go to their reunions? I said, no. Of course, publishing books, he knew about the organizations. They have an Anzio Beachhead reunion. They have a 3rd Division reunion. And through him, I found out when they were out of Florida, the Anzio Beachhead people. So I started meeting with them soon after that. They were having their reunions in Orlando, Jacksonville, Florida each year. I started, first reunion I attended about 85, so in Orlando, Florida. I started going to their reunions, attending them each year. And also I got interested, started attending the 3rd Division reunions along about that time. They were having yearly reunions somewhere. Then we were having about 400 or 500 in the 3rd Division reunion, about 200 or so in Anzio reunion. I took an active part in it. Pretty much became one of the directors of the Anzio Association. And attended reunions each year. But there was a lot of problems in those organizations. A lot of money problems, a lot of control problems, very cliquey. And I went along with everything until about 2001. I hosted a reunion in Nashville, and I was appointed president, I think, the year prior to that in Charleston, South Carolina, and at the reunion in Nashville. Very successful reunion, about 200 people attended. All my activity, I managed all the tours we went on, and even made some money. They usually lost a lot of money to reunions. I made a few $100s that year for the organization. Because I went out and walked the streets and got donations for a hospitality room. I had donut, Krispy Kreme bringing us fresh donuts out every morning, cookies and stuff, potato chip cookies. I got free stuff, ice cream, didn't have to pay in for anything. And I got criticized a lot for some things that went on. I was felt very hurt on a lot of things, and you want to get into that a little bit?
What is your story?
I thought something has to be done. It was very, the control of it was just terrible, the money thing, the control, the way the guys were treated. So I decided to start a faction organization, build a newsletter out like 202. And since like 2002, we've been meeting on our own. We've been very successful. Anzio Beach Veterans, 1944 WW2, and I've hosted the reunion each year, I guess since then. They wouldn't appoint anybody else as president. I had a vice president a few years. He passed away a couple of years ago. So it's just sort of been a one-man show. I have put the newsletter out 2 or 3 times a year and plan the reunion each year. And the guys vote on a certain location. My wife and myself goes to the location, check hotels and things out. And we've been hosting reunions since 2001. Meantime, I still go 3rd Division reunions each year. Until the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't been going to them as much as I was. I served as Eastern Region Committeeman for about 10 years on that. And most of the years I meet with them, but the Anzio group has been my primary concern. It's been very time consuming, and I've been hosting those, say, since 2001. Our attendance has been good, around 100 people or so. The last year or two, been down to 65. We're about 50, 55 this year. This is our 3rd time in Branson. My wife is usually with me. She's not with me this year. She's having some health problems. She's not with me this year. She's back at home. But I've enjoyed it very much. And the reunions I host have been time consuming. Actually been a physical strain, mental strain. But if just one veteran comes to me and says, I enjoyed this, tears running down his cheeks, and said, I've been out of the Army 65 years, and they learn of the organization and come, and if one veteran says, I'm happy with what's going on, meeting other guys, it makes it worth it all. I've just spent a lot of time. I get no financial gain out of it. We do get comp rooms and comp food at the hotel sometimes, which helps compensate for our time and our expense. But I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And I know somewhere, my wife's told me, my boys have told me, Daddy, you need to slow down, need to quit this. But I said, stop. I said, I'm afraid when I stop this, I'll be stopping myself. I said, I cannot stop. Sit down in the room, look at the walls, and I think the activity keeps me mentally and physically healthier. I want to do it. I have the desire to do it. And I hope to keep on keeping on as long as I can until health or something will stop me from doing it. Only the good Lord can answer that. I enjoy it very much, and I've learned so much. I've been going back to Etna now, 13 trips last year made. I started going back in 85. I take groups back, and 94, 5th anniversary, I had a group of 64. Had a tour company with that, and then 208, 9, and 10, I did the tours myself, because the tour companies have a tendency, they want to go to the big cities, Rome and London. We want to go, my tour is a battlefield tour. 11-day battlefield tour, starting out at Salerno, going up to Rome, covering the battlefield areas, and some side trips to Pompeii and Isle of Capri. We go to the American Embassy. But I've had groups of 25 or 30 for the last 3 years. Some of the people go with me 3 times the same tour. And it's been a learning experience for me. And had a trip planned this year. I advertised for it all back in November, December through, and the deadline, like getting the airline tickets, was usually about the middle of March, and it only had 8 people, didn't have enough interest this time, so I canceled it out due to the sickness of my wife too. And but I look forward to going back next year, and that's been a great experience in itself. I've had the opportunity to be on the Memorial Day program at the American Cemetery in Nettuno, Italy there. It's attended by several thousand people. It's overseen by the AVMC out of the embassy. I've been a speaker on the program there probably for 8 or 10 years. Lay a wreath in honor of the Anzio Beachhead it's just been great to me. If I know when I go back to the Memorial Day programs, the guys will know why I was going early like last year. I said, well, actually, they'll have to be there for a little preview or a, I can't think what it is, sort of a run of what we're gonna do. And I said, so I go back there and listen to those bands. I said, if I'm not motivated, I listen to military tuning to those bands, I get more motivated. I feel like I can speak better by hearing some kind of a real good military music. And we rehearse the program each year. And I've got to be on the program with the American Ambassador, Admiral of the Sixth Fleet. This year, last program I was on, I was second speaker, first speaker, usually the American Ambassador. I spoke second. The Secretary, the new Secretary of the Navy spoke. Then the Secretary of Defense of Italy. And we have a lot of special guests there, the mayors of the local towns, Anzio, Nettuno. The veterans are getting much less each year. I've got to know the guys at the cemetery, very beautiful cemetery in Nettuno with almost 9,000 graves. And the superintendent been there about 30 years, assistant superintendent. They retired this year. But last time I talked to them last year, I said something about it might be the last year. And he said, well, help me, the guy standing there with tears running down her cheeks. I said, Clyde, when you quit coming over here with the group, that's the end of World War II. I said, now we're just having ones now and then. And said, if you quit with your 25 or 30 group each Memorial Day, I said, actually, that's, and the guy, tears running down her cheeks, he said, that's an end of that generation to us. He said, when you start bringing that group back, just think about it. There might be some daughter or son that will bring their 90-some-year-old daddy back in. But as far as being the group of Memorial Day program, when you stop, that's sort of the end of World War II. There's 9,200 graves there, plus 3,000 names engraved in the walls of guys that buried at sea and didn't find their bodies. So I hate to stop I just hate to stop any of this, really.
Keep on going.
I just hate to stop. I look forward to going on with the military reunions and the military activities as long as the good Lord lets me have the health and the mind to do it. And I'm not a quitter. I don't want to stop these things. Family first, God first, family and country. And I'm a very patriotic person. I'm very concerned about our country, the direction our country is going. Very, very concerned. I don't like what I see, what I hear today. I'm going to do what I can to help America because I love America. I fought for America. I bled for America. A lot of my buddies died for America. And so freedom is not free. It's paid for with a great price. Freedom is not freedom to do anything you want to do. Freedom has restrictions to it. I see freedom abused today, and history's proven freedom abused is often, most time, lost. So my message to the young generation today, cherish that freedom, protect that freedom, have goals in your life, work for those goals. There's many, many frontiers, new frontiers in America that has not been reached. You probably live in one of the most great opportunity times of American history. Have goals, work for those goals. Cherish your freedom, protect that freedom, because it was paid for with a great price of blood, sacrifice, and suffering, and death. If you can see a battlefield one day on a battlefield, you realize what your freedom cost. Realize what past generations have paid for your freedom you're enjoying today. I have so many things I could say that's not coming to me right now, how precious and how great freedom is. You're living in a great nation. Be part of the process. Do those things that are good for America. God's blessed America for over 200 years. And I think if America gets on the right track, God will continue to bless America for many years. But I know I fought alongside these guys that I go back to Italy when I'm on a program. Those comrades of mine I fought alongside of. And a lot of times I shed tears when I look at the American flag because I know firsthand behind that great symbol, that great flag, there's tears and sacrifice and blood has been shed for it. So hold your head high. Be proud of being American, and especially the veterans. You're a veteran, and especially to the Anzio beachhead veterans of World War II. You are a veteran, and you are a survivor of the Anzio beachhead. You have a lot to be proud of.
This is Mr. Clyde Easter, and we appreciate you taking this time today. And you are a part of the greatest generation, and this America that we have was given to us by your generation. And I hope that we can save it. I hope we can save it. But it's been my pleasure to be able to interview Mr. Clyde Easter, and along with other World War II veterans. And this will conclude our interview for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.